Welcome to Young Money, the advice show for millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with me, Tracy Bissett. My hands-on experience and formal financial education make me uniquely qualified to coach about all things money. Each week, I'm going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits, and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a financially fit future. You'll hear from experts, your fellow millionaires in the making, and me. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it. Welcome to the Young Money Podcast. I'm really excited we have a very special guest today, Anjali Jariwala. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
And so Anjali is the founder of Fit Advisors, a financial planning firm serving physicians and business owners virtually across the U.S. She has a CPA and she is also a CFP, so important to know that. Prior to launching her own firm, she spent 6 years working with Fortune 500 clients at a top 4 accounting firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and 2 years with a large prestigious financial planning firm serving high net worth individuals. So during her career, she would often share financial advice with family and friends, but began to realize that not only did most of them lack access to the best personal finance information, but also their busy family lives meant they just didn't have time to pull it together on their own. So she decided to make a bigger impact by starting her own firm. And she is the host of the Money Checkup podcast, a semi-monthly checkup that discusses the many facets of financial well-being. And that's how we met. I was a guest on Money Checkup a little while ago. And so that was a really fun experience. And when we talked, I knew that Anjali would be a great guest for us on Young Money. And a couple other things to know about her. She was named one of Investment News' top 40 under 40 for 2019 and named one of Financial Advisors magazine's Young Advisors to Watch for 2020. She has been featured in CNBC, Bloomberg, U.S. News and World Report, New York Times, USA Today, Business Insider, Investment News, and so many more publications and news outlets. So welcome again, Anjali.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really great. In our audience, we have people who are pursuing careers. We have people who have side hustles. We have people who are entrepreneurs. And so I think you have a great mix of everything that will serve them really well. Now, I've read your formal bio, and I'd love it if you can share in your own words what a day looks like for you, what your business is like, and the fun things that you get up to.
Yeah. So my firm is called Fit Advisors. I started it about 6 years ago, and we predominantly serve physicians and small business owners. And so for our business owners, we're really working with them to help bridge the gap between their personal and their business finances because the two are so interconnected. My average client age is about 40. So it's really, young professionals who are building wealth and they just have very busy family lives. So they're really looking for someone to help piece that all together. My firm is completely virtual, so I don't meet anyone in person. And we have clients in about 16 states now.
That's excellent. Love what you said about the personal and the business being so interconnected, because that is absolutely true. And sometimes when things are a little bit mixed up on the financial side, it's hard to know if it's the issue is with the business or if it's with the lifestyle and what's going on personally. So I think that fills a really great need. Now, for some people who might be listening, they've heard the term financial advisor, coach, financial planner. I'd love to know from you what financial planning and financial planner means to you and what that looks like from a little bit deeper perspective when you're helping your clients.
Yeah, that's a great question. The term financial planner is kind of thrown out there a lot. And the kind of downside of that is that our profession isn't necessarily regulated the same way. So if you see a doctor and they have an MD or DO, okay, they're a physician. If you see a dentist, et cetera. But in financial planning, it's a wide range of professionals that you may come across. So for me, what a financial planner really is it's a person who's your guide that's helping to educate you, run numbers, pull all of your financial pieces together so you feel empowered to make the best financial decisions for yourself, right? And so a financial planner is usually there to help pull together all the pieces of your financial life. So that may include your investments and your cash flow and your insurance and your estate planning, etc. So they're really here as your guide more so than anything else, and that person that you can go to ask any question that comes up that may have that's money related.
I love it that you shared that they are the guide, they're really your advocate, and the part that it is participatory. So it is on the clients to ask questions. And so I imagine it's extremely important to find somebody that you're comfortable with so that you can ask those questions, because sometimes people feel overwhelmed. What suggestions would you have in terms of finding the right fit so that people are comfortable and can ask those questions with a financial planner?
Yeah, I think before you go out to interview financial planners, it's helpful to take some time for yourself. And, I'm a big advocate of pen to paper, to be honest. There's something about writing that's really helpful, and just kind of write out what you feel like you need help with in terms of the money matters in your life, right? Because when you sit down to talk to an advisor, and I usually recommend people talk to at least 3 to get a feel for who might be the best fit, because everyone has a different approach and style, then you're coming to that conversation with much more insight, so that when you're interviewing the advisors, you really know what you're looking for and whether that person can take care of your needs. And on the flip side that you mentioned, Tracy, is that personality fit is really key. And the reason why is because you will disclose a lot of personal information. You might get vulnerable when you're talking to your financial advisor. So you really want to make sure that you feel like it's someone that you can fully trust, because that makes the relationship much more productive, not only for you, but for the advisor as well.
And I'm sure that you would say this to people if you feel there's not a good fit, that they might like to look for somebody else, because it's so important on both sides that everybody feel there's a fit.
Exactly. And I'll be honest and tell prospects that I'll say, I don't think I'm the right fit, but here are 3 other people that I think would be a great fit if you'd like to reach out to them.
And that's just a great message in that. And so for everybody listening, I want you to hear what she said, because not everybody is going to be as transparent and be as honest and upfront about those kinds of things in that financial role. So you want to make sure that if you don't feel it's a good fit, you advocate for yourself and say, it's great to meet you, but I'm going to move on to somebody else, and look for those characteristics that Anjali is sharing so that you get into the right relationship. So thanks so much for clarifying that. Now, when business owners come to work with you, what are the primary reasons that drive them to come to see you? And then kind of second part to that is, are they coming at the right time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually the main reasons why a business owner is coming to me is because they're at a point in their business where they're finally earning a good amount of revenue and profitability is there. And they realize that they're at a point where they want to get their personal financial matters in order. But in order to do so, they really need help to take their business, maybe if it's to the next level, get them ready for acquisition, whatever the case may be. And so I think a lot the reasons why business owners may come to work with me is because my background is in tax and financials, right? I'm a CPA by trade. I spent the first half of my career working with large companies because I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I have comfort with tax planning, business planning, et cetera. And sometimes it's, the numbers, we really work through the numbers, but a lot of times it's also just talking through what the business growth means for that person. For a lot of business owners, like getting to a certain point in revenue, et cetera, is something that's very new for them, something that they never thought would happen for them. So there's a lot of work we do around kind of mindset, comfort, feeling like they deserve the money, because I do get a lot of that they don't feel like they deserve the money. So there might be hesitation in pulling money out of the business for them personally. So it's a lot of different things that, I help my business owners work through, and I'm an Indian woman. So my business owners are predominantly minority owned businesses. So, it's just a lot of, we just are doing work to kind of get them to where they want to be. And, there's a lot of shared values and experiences there. So I think that also helps, and maybe a reason why certain people are drawn to working with me.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And certainly that money story and money mindset is so important. And I imagine with every client, it's a very tailored approach, and no two are exactly the same.
Correct.
Do you find they're coming at the right time, or would you wish they came a little bit earlier, or are things kind of lined up well when they're approaching you to get involved?
Yeah, I mean the notion of right time is interesting, right? Because I may say like, "Oh, I wish you had come to me a year earlier," but if that person from a mindset perspective didn't feel like it was right timing for them, then the relationship would not have been successful, right? So, I think whenever someone is coming to me and it's the right time for them, then that's the right time, right? Because they're now in the mindset that they're ready to make these changes and work with a professional, and that will always result in more progress than if someone is coming to me before they feel like they're fully ready.
Excellent. And because you work with so many different business owners, and I love how you highlighted that you do tend to attract minority business owners as you're working with various clients, what are the things that you're seeing that they're doing well in their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of variety of businesses. So, everyone has their skill set, right? So it's really nice to see their skill set highlighted in a way to create a product, create a service, whatever the case may be. So what a lot of my business owners are doing well is, they have really strong work ethic that helps, and they're flexible and they adapt, right? In COVID, we saw what could happen not only to employees, but also to business owners. So a lot of my business owners did well, and it's because they adapted and they were flexible. And I think that's always key for any business owner and entrepreneur is the ability to adapt and change as needed so that your business continues to be profitable.
Yeah, that's so true. And I certainly saw that as well during COVID, which is fantastic. This message is for all the entrepreneurs and small business owners listening. I am excited to invite you to the Cash Control Bootcamp, a 6-week live online group program to help you understand and plan for your company's cash flow, profitably price your products and services, have those difficult conversations with stakeholders, and so much more. I am leading this live training, so each week you'll learn the lessons and have the opportunity to be coached and get your questions answered by me. There are 2 things I know to be true. Every industry has strong performers who will not only survive, but thrive during this continued global pandemic. And 2, successful companies plan and proactively prepare for challenging times. Enrollment is now open, so head over to the show notes to find out more details and get registered today. Now, you've talked about the things that they're doing really well, and I too am always so impressed to see the skills that they possess as they deliver their unique products and services. Are there some missteps that you're seeing that you would like to share with the listeners so they can potentially learn what not to do of things you've observed with your clients?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, some of the things, I think the biggest thing is not having as firm handle on expenses, right? I think what tends to happen is that as revenue goes up, a lot of my business owners will continue to spend it so that the profitability diminishes. So in years in which they had lower revenue, they might be more profitable versus years that they had higher revenue. So it's a reflection of kind of looking at the numbers and making sure that my owners are paying themselves appropriately, right? That's one of the biggest mistakes I see is that there is a hesitation to pull money out of the business, whether it's as a salary, whether it's as a distribution, whatever the case may be. And I'm of the mindset that, if you're working really, really hard, then you should be paying yourself adequately, especially if the business can support that. And if it doesn't look like the business can currently support that, then what changes can we make in the business in terms of how things are structured, how things are spent, to make that business more profitable so that the owner feels comfortable pulling more money out for their personal goals. And because we're concurrently working on their personal goals, it's really helpful because we're showing them live that, okay, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, here's really what we need from an income perspective. And then that motivates the business owner to really make sure that the business is providing that because they have clarity as to what those personal goals are.
Excellent. And so I want to dig into 2 things that you said. Certainly, I hear very consistently as well that owners are not paying themselves appropriately. And we talk a lot about what if you weren't there? What if somebody else had to do the work? How much would you have to pay them? And I know it's hard to generalize. Are we seeing it, and you're seeing it in your clients from a, as you mentioned before, not worthy, not deserving, don't want to take that much out? Or is it from a place of just lack of knowledge and weren't sure even how to go about the regular payments to themselves?
I think it's both. I do see a lot of the former. I tend to work with a lot of children of immigrants. And I'm a child of immigrants. So we see that mindset that it's not deserving. We shouldn't be taking that money out, right? Or we shouldn't pull the money out unless we know exactly what we're going to do with it, which in that respect, it's really, once you pull the money out, it's yours, right? I always view money that stays in the business as semi at risk, not really yours until you can pull it out. So I have seen kind of both sides of it. And I have seen it where it's both in the same client, right? So that it's much more, and I wouldn't say it's work, but I think the process might just take a little longer because we are doing work around mindset and the person feeling comfortable that they do deserve that money and that they can take it for themselves and it's okay to do that.
What would be some tips that you give them in terms of starting to feel worthy or ways they can change their mindset as you broach that subject with them?
Yeah, I mean, when we do personal planning, I do a lot of work on goals and values in general. So we go through Kinder's 3 questions. He's the life planning guru. And from that exercise, not only does the client have clarity on what they want and need, but we have clarity as well. So, some of it is working through that process. And a lot of times it's just conversations, right? And it's conversations in which I just let my client talk, right? Let them talk, let them get a lot of that out. Because sometimes it's just a question of processing it. I have a situation right now where a client has had a huge windfall and in 1 year has funded every single financial goal that they have set for themselves. And there's still more that will be coming because of the success of the business and the trajectory. And we've been having more frequent calls and the calls aren't, okay, so what allocation should we do and how should we invest it? It's really just this feeling of like, I never thought this would happen. I don't know what to do. Can we just talk about it? Right. So we had a conversation and he's like, can we talk again in a few weeks? And I was like, absolutely. And we're not talking numbers, right? I'm just giving that person time and space. And because he's children of immigrants, I'm children of immigrants, he feels comfortable talking to me in a way in which he may not be comfortable talking to someone else, just because there's those shared experiences and there's this deeper level of understanding that I have just because I know exactly what he's going through and feeling in terms of kind of that children of immigrant dilemma that comes up a lot.
Well, that's tremendous. I'm so happy to hear that story about how well that he is doing. And I'm a huge proponent of either in your personal life or in your business, making as much money as you can, because it gives you freedom, flexibility, and then you get to have choice about where you use those resources. Right. So whether you want to donate money to charity, whether you want to do some things pro bono, you want to help family or friends, it gives you so much freedom and flexibility. But as you've pointed out, there is so much mind work that can come with that, depending on your upbringing, your situation to date, what your experience has been. So I love how you shared that example. Now, when we think about financial planning, sometimes people have misconceptions or there might be myths out there surrounding them. What are either the number one or the couple that you hear kind of regularly that you have to be saying to people, yeah, that's not actually true. That might be what you think, but no, that's not the case. So what are the kinds of things that you hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is the notion that you have to be wealthy and have investable assets to work with a financial advisor. I think that was true back in the day. It's definitely not true now. There are a lot of wonderful advisors that are serving a very wide range of clients. And so if you are looking for an advisor, whether you're 20, 30, 40, whatever the case may be, there is probably a person out there with you. And the other notion is that, well, I don't have any assets. And so how can I work with an advisor because they always charge on assets under management? That's also not true.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of advisors right now, similar to me, where we charge kind of on a flat retainer based on the complexity and the work that we do. So it allows people who may not have the assets, who may not have kind of what we normally perceive a person who's working with an advisor to have, and they can still have access to the help that they need in a format that works for them, right? Some people will really want a one-on-one relationship. Others might be comfortable in a group coaching setting. Others might say, I want to go through a course and then see based on the course if I want to work with that advisor. So there's a lot of great platforms that are now out there and a lot of advisors doing things in creative and unique ways that it is, I think a kind of an exciting time in our profession.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I think for anybody who's listening who thinks there's nobody there for me, you just need to ask people you know and trust. You need to broaden your search because, as you've said, there are so many different arrangements now that can be made and everyone can find the right person for them to work with. So really appreciate you clearing up those misconceptions because those are ones that I hear all the time as well. Now, before I let you go, is there one final piece of advice you can share with the listeners? It may be something you've already mentioned that you'd love to reiterate or something new that you'd love to leave them with.
Yeah, I think for young people especially, my word of advice is to feel free to take risks in your life and not risks like, things that are deadly, but, from a professional and a career standpoint. I think there's so much opportunity out there with side hustles and entrepreneurship, et cetera. And sometimes we are really risk averse. I know I'm very risk averse where we're scared to try something new. So I would say, be open to trying new things and taking a little bit more risk in your professional life, especially when you're young, because you can rebound and bounce back if it doesn't work out. And, young people are pretty resilient. So even if it doesn't work out, you kind of have that mindset to try again.
Excellent. And I'm so glad that you prefaced it around personal and career standpoint, because we do get a lot of questions about cryptocurrencies, about things like that, and people thinking that that's their way that they should be taking risk. So glad that you really, really prefaced it on the personal risk taking and that ability to bounce back. So thank you for that. Now, would love for you to share what you're working on next and where our listeners can go to learn more about you.
Sure. I'm actually working on a children's book. So that's been my COVID project. I'm really big on books that feature diverse children. And so I'm working on one in which my daughter is the main character because I wanted to have a book in which she could see herself in. So that is my project. It is taking a lot longer than I thought it would because I'm an instant gratification type person, but it's been fun. It's nice to do something that's totally outside the box. So it's been a learning experience, but I'm excited for that final product. And yeah, people can find me on my website, fitadvisors.com. I also have a podcast called Money Checkup. And if you have a question for me, you can go on my website and ask me, and then I will usually feature it on an upcoming podcast episode.
Excellent. And I imagine your book, it's not about money. So that probably needed a little bit more challenging.
I wanted something that was kind of outside the realm of money since that's what I do day in and day out. So the book is actually an aspect about Indian culture. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm so happy to hear that. And it's always very inspiring to hear what people have been up to during COVID and taking the opportunity to try new things. So that's a risk-taking experience brought to life. So that's wonderful. Now, I know that I am taking away so many things from our conversation today, Anjali. I love how you really laid it out in very simple terms. What is a financial planner? I like how you gave the advice around putting pen to paper and thinking about the things that you want to work with a financial planner about, so that when you are going through that process of meeting with different ones, you can actually be very clear about what it is that you're looking for and be able to ask them, are these the kinds of things you can provide? And then making sure that fit is there. Love how you shared the strengths that you're seeing at the business owners that you're working with around their skill sets and their strong work ethic and ability to be flexible and adapt. And then those not necessarily missteps, but thinking about where there's opportunities for them to strengthen around paying themselves properly and appropriately, and then thinking about profitability as well, and being able to hit those goals personally and business wise concurrently, which is fantastic. And just that final piece of advice about being free to take risks from a personal and career standpoint, especially when you're young, which applies to our listeners, because you will be able to rebound. And certainly resiliency is a characteristic and a muscle we can build and strengthen. And so no better time than when you are young. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So there you have it, listeners. Anjali Jariwala, CPA and CFP, founder of Fit Advisors. All the links will be in the show notes for her website. And as I mentioned, I was a guest on her Money Checkup podcast, so check out that as well. Until next time, take good care and stay financially fit. Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit 2 S's, 2 T's, financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, millionaires to be.